June 22, 1941, 4 o'clock a.m., Odessa, Soviet Ukraine. Lyudmila Pavlichenko woke to the sound of distant thunder, except it wasn't thunder. The windows rattled in their frames. Her roommate sat bolt upright in bed, eyes wide, already knowing. The radio crackled to life across the hall. Panicked voices, static, then Molotov's voice cutting through, without any declaration of war. German forces attacked our country. She was 24 years old, a history student at Kiev University. She'd been writing her thesis on Bohdan Khmelnytsky. That morning, she closed the notebook for what she thought would be a few weeks. It would be 4 years before she opened another book. By noon, she was standing in a recruitment line that stretched 3 blocks. Men, mostly factory workers, farmers, university professors, still wearing yesterday's shirts. They looked at her the way men looked at women in 1941, with polite confusion, as if she'd wandered into the wrong building. The recruitment officer didn't even glance up. Nursing Corps is 2 buildings down. I'm here to enlist as a rifleman. Now he looked up. He saw a young woman, blonde, striking, with the kind of beauty that belonged on Soviet propaganda posters, not in a trench. He smiled the way you smile at a child who wants to drive the tractor. Go home. This isn't for you. She didn't raise her voice. I'm a Voroshilov sharpshooter. I've been shooting since I was 14. I can put 5 rounds through a playing card at 100 meters. The officer's smile didn't fade. Everyone thinks they can shoot. Lyudmila walked out. 20 minutes later, she was back, this time carrying her shooting club certification, her marksmanship badges, her competition records. She laid them on his desk one by one, each piece of paper a small, quiet slap. The officer read them. His smile died. Report to the 25th Chapyev Rifle Division, tomorrow 0600. She nodded once, turned, and as she reached the door, she heard him mutter to his aide, "Give her 2 weeks, she'll wash out or get herself killed." She would prove him wrong in ways he couldn't possibly imagine. The 25th Chapyev Rifle Division wasn't ready for Lyudmila Pavlichenko, and Lyudmila Pavlichenko wasn't ready for war. No one is. Her first day at the front line near Belyaevivka, she was issued a Mosin-Nagant rifle 7.62 mm, bolt-action, heavy as a fence post stand, told to dig in on a ridge overlooking a wheat field. The field was golden, beautiful, swaying in the breeze. It looked like peace. Then she saw the bodies, Soviet soldiers from the day before, still lying where they'd fallen, half hidden in the grain. One of them was missing an arm. Another had his face turned toward the sky, mouth open, as if he'd been asking a question when the bullet found him. Lyudmila's hand shook. She gripped the rifle tighter. Her spotter, a wiry Siberian named Leonid who smelled like tobacco and sweat, leaned close. "You ever kill a man before? No? Then don't think about it. Just pull the trigger when I tell you." She waited. The sun climbed. Flies gathered on the corpses in the wheat. She could hear them buzzing. Then Leonid whispered, "Movement. 2 o'clock. 300 meters." She looked through the scope. A figure emerged from the tree-lined German uniform, Feldgrau gray-green, rifle slung over his shoulder. He was young, maybe 19. He moved carelessly, almost lazy, like he was walking to a cafe. Range 320, wind negligible. "Take him." Her finger rested on the trigger. She could see his face now, clean-shaven, blonde hair poking out from under his helmet. He was smiling about something. Maybe a letter from home. Maybe a joke his squadmate had told him. Leonid's voice was flat. "Pavlichenko, take the shot." She squeezed. The rifle kicked. The German dropped like someone had cut his strings. Lyudmila lowered the rifle. Her hands were still shaking, but now for a different reason. Leonid grunted. "Good. Now do it again." By the end of her first week, she had 11 confirmed kills. By the end of the first month, 36. The commanders noticed. How could they not? While other snipers averaged 2 or 3 kills a week, Pavlichenko was racking up numbers like she was keeping score. And in a way, she was. Every notch in her rifle was a small private act of vengeance for the bodies in the wheat field, for the burning villages, for the old man she'd seen hanged from a lamppost in Odessa with a sign around his neck that read, "Partisan." But it wasn't rage that made her a good sniper. Rage makes you sloppy. Rage makes you rush. What made Lyudmila Pavlichenko exceptional was patience. She could lie motionless in a sniper's nest for 16 hours, barely breathing, covered in mud and her own filth, waiting for one perfect moment. She understood something that took most snipers years to learn. The hunt isn't about speed. It's about stillness. About becoming part of the landscape. About watching, learning, predicting, A good sniper doesn't just aim at where the target is, she aims at where the target will be. Lyudmila became a ghost. She learned to read the battlefield like a language, the way soldiers moved in the morning versus the afternoon, which routes they favored, how they reacted to artillery fire. She memorized the rhythms of war, and she used them. September 1941. Odessa was under siege. The Romanian 4th Army and German 11th Army had encircled the city. Soviet forces were outnumbered 3-1. The fighting was street to street, house to house. The city was dying slowly, one block at a time. Lyudmila was assigned to a sniper unit defending the northern district, a maze of ruined apartments and shattered storefronts. This was different from the open fields. Here, the distances were shorter, the sight lines blocked by rubble. Here, you could die from a ricochet, from a grenade rolling through a doorway, from a piece of shrapnel that wasn't even aimed at you. Her new spotter was a woman named Nina Lobkovsky, sharp-eyed, dark-haired, who'd been a schoolteacher in Leningrad. Nina didn't talk much, which suited Lyudmila fine. They developed a wordless language, hand signals, glances, the tilt of her head. One morning, from a third-floor window overlooking Pushkin Street, Nina tapped Lyudmila's shoulder twice. "Officer, priority target." Lyudmila peered through the scope. 500 meters down the street, a German officer was standing beside a half-track studying a map, completely exposed. He wore the insignia of an Oberleutnant, first lieutenant. Beside him, 2 soldiers stood guard, stupid, arrogant, fatal. Lyudmila adjusted for distance and the slight crosswind funneling through the ruined buildings. She exhaled slowly, let her heartbeat settle, found the space between breaths where everything goes silent. She fired. The Oberleutnant crumpled. The 2 guards spun, rifles raised, scanning for the shooter. They saw nothing. Just broken windows, just rubble, just the ghost of smoke dissipating in the air. Nina was already tapping her shoulder again. One of the guards, Lyudmila cycled the bolt, aimed, fired. The guard dropped. The second guard panicked. He ran straight down the middle of the street, zigzagging, desperate. Lyudmila tracked him through the scope, patient, waiting for him to slow, waiting for the inevitable moment when fear runs out of breath. He stumbled, just for a second. That was enough. 3 shots, 3 bodies, 14 seconds. Nina allowed herself a small, grim smile. "You're getting faster." "I'm getting angrier," Lyudmila replied. By October, her count was 187. By December, as Odessa fell and the Soviet forces evacuated to Sevastopol, it was 2 for 2. And that's when the Germans started to notice her specifically, not just as a sniper, as the sniper. Prisoners began talking. Under interrogation, German soldiers mentioned her Die Teufelslady. They called her the Devil Lady. Stories spread through the Wehrmacht ranks. A female Soviet sniper who never missed, who killed officers in broad daylight, who disappeared like smoke. The propaganda officers loved it. Lyudmila Pavlichenko became Lady Death in Soviet newspapers. Her face appeared on posters. Radio broadcasts praised her unflinching defense of the motherland. She was awarded the Order of Lenin. But fame is a double-edged sword, because now the Germans knew her name, knew her face, knew she was at Sevastopol, and they decided to do something about it. Sevastopol, December 1941. The fortress city clung to the cliffs of the Crimean Peninsula like a wounded animal. The harbor was choked with burning ships. The streets were rubble. The sky was perpetually gray with smoke and ash. The Germans surrounded the city on 3 sides. The sea was behind. There was nowhere left to retreat. This is where Lyudmila Pavlichenko would make her stand. January 1942, Sevastopol's northern perimeter. The cold was the kind that made your bones ache. Lyudmila lay in a crater that had once been someone's garden, covered in a white camouflage sheet. Her breath coming in shallow, controlled puffs that she couldn't let frost in the air. She'd been in position for 6 hours. Her legs had gone numb an hour ago. She didn't move. 50 meters ahead, through the skeleton of what used to be a greenhouse, she could see German positions dug into the hillside, machine gun nests, mortar teams, and somewhere among them, snipers. She could feel them, the way a wolf feels another wolf in the forest. Nina lay beside her, scanning with binoculars, occasionally whispering ranges and positions. They'd been partners for 4 months now. They could read each other's breathing. Contact, Nina breathed. 11 o'clock, 400 meters. Edge of the stone wall. Lyudmila shifted her scope 1 degree. At first she saw nothing. Then there, the smallest irregularity. A shadow that was slightly wrong. The edge of a helmet, barely visible above the rocks. Amateur mistake. A good sniper never shows his silhouette. She waited, patient, because the thing about snipers is they eventually have to move, have to adjust, have to look through their scope. And when they do, that's when you see the glint. That tiny flash of light off glass that says, "Here I am." 5 minutes past 10. Then there, the glint. She fired before she consciously decided to fire. Muscle memory, pure reflex, honed over 242 kills. Through the scope, she saw the helmet jerk backward. The German slumped forward over the wall, rifle clattering down the rocks. Nina made a small mark in her notebook, 243. But something was wrong. Lyudmila felt it in her gut, that animal instinct that keeps soldiers alive. The German had been positioned too, obviously, too exposed, almost like ... Down, she screamed. The bullet snapped through the air where her head had been half a second before, so close she felt the displacement of air against her cheek. It punched into the frozen ground behind them with a sound like a hammer on concrete. They rolled, scrambling for the lip of the crater as 2 more rounds chewed up the earth around them. Lyudmila caught a glimpse of muzzle flash not from the German position ahead, but from a ruined chimney 300 meters to their right. A flanking position, which meant the dead sniper had been bait. "They're learning," Nina gasped. Lyudmila's jaw tightened. "Good, I was getting bored." That night, in the bunker beneath Sevastopol's old naval fortress, Major Konstantin Morozov called Lyudmila into his office. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past month. His uniform hung loose on his frame. There were fresh graves outside every morning. "Sit," he said. She sat. He slid a piece of paper across the desk. It was a German leaflet, dropped from an aircraft, picked up by Soviet patrols. The text was in Russian. "To the Soviet sniper known as Lyudmila Pavlichenko, you are fighting for the wrong side. Germany offers you asylum and the rank of officer if you cross over. You are too valuable to die for the Bolsheviks. Come to us, we will make you famous." Lyudmila read it, then read it again, then looked at Morozov. "They're trying to recruit me. They're trying to get inside your head," Morozov replied. "And when that doesn't work, they'll try to put a bullet in it." He lit a cigarette with shaking hands. "Intelligence reports say the Wehrmacht has transferred a special sniper detachment to Sevastopol. Zeelandmeister school graduates. Do you know what that means?" She did. The Zeelandmeister program, the German military's elite sniper training course. 6 months of intensive training in fieldcraft, camouflage, ballistics, and psychology. The graduates were the best marksmen in Europe, and they were coming for her. "How many?" she asked. "We don't know, maybe 6, maybe a dozen." He exhaled smoke. "Pavlichenko, you've become a propaganda asset. Your face is in every newspaper. The Americans are writing about you. The British are writing about you. You're more valuable alive than dead to us. But to the Germans," he stubbed out the cigarette half-smoked, "you're a problem they need to solve. Then let them try." Morozov looked at her for a long moment. "You know what happens to soldiers who think they're invincible? They get careless," Lyudmila said. "I won't. See that you don't." He pulled out a bottle of vodka and 2 glasses, poured, slid one across to "Staying Alive." She raised the glass. 2 dead fascists. They drank. The German snipers arrived in Sevastopol with a reputation and a mission. Their commander was Hauptmann Otto Becker, 31 years old, veteran of Poland and France, confirmed 79 kills. He'd trained at Zeelandsmeister under the legendary Matthias Hetzenauer. He was methodical, cold, and very, very patient. With him came 5 others. Unteroffizier Hans Muller, 23 kills. Specialist in urban warfare. Obergefreiter Karl Schmidt, 31 kills. Former competitive target shooter. Jeff Reiter, Eric Zimmermann kills. The youngest at 21, with eyes like a hawk. Obergefreiter Franz Hoffmann, 44 kills. A hunter from Bavaria who could track a deer through fog. Unteroffizier Peter Klein, 27 kills. Known for extreme patience, once waited 4 days in a sewer to kill a Soviet commissar. They set up in a bombed-out factory on Sevastopol's eastern approach. Becker spread a map on a table and placed 6 markers representing his team. "Pavlichenko operates in the northern sector," he said in clipped German. "She's killed at least 30 of our men in the past 2 months. She's disciplined, intelligent, and has never been wounded. That means she's careful." He tapped the map. "Careful snipers have patterns. They favor certain positions, certain sight lines. We find the pattern. We find her." Muller lit a cigarette. "And if she doesn't have a pattern?" "Everyone has a pattern," Becker replied. "They just don't know it yet." The next morning, Lyudmila was briefed on her new assignment: counter-sniper operations. Find the Germans. Kill them before they kill you. It was a chess game now, and the board was 6 square kilometers of frozen ruins. She changed her tactics immediately. No more staying in one position for hours. No more predictable routes. She moved constantly, never sleeping in the same place twice, rotating through 8 different hides scattered across the sector. She stopped shooting from obvious positions. If a window looked like good cover, she avoided it. If a rooftop had clear sight lines, she ignored it. Instead, she shot from places that made no sense, from rubble piles, from collapsed basements, from inside blown open water tanks. She became chaos, unpredictable, random, impossible to track, and she started hunting the hunters. January 18, 1942, 06 to 0 hours, Lyudmila spotted him from 400 meters away, a German sniper setting up in the bell tower of a destroyed church. He was good. He moved slowly, kept low, used the shadows, but he made one mistake. He arrived at dawn when the light was behind him. For just 3 seconds, his silhouette was visible against the pale morning sky. 3 seconds was enough. Lyudmila adjusted for the upward angle, the distance, the bitter wind cutting across the plaza. She breathed out, fired. The German pitched backward into the tower. She never saw him again. Nina made a mark. 244, one of Becker's. Lyudmila asked. Maybe. Hard to tell. Then we keep looking, but Becker was looking too. He'd positioned his men in a wide net, each with overlapping fields of fire, each watching the others' backs. They worked in shifts, so there was always someone awake, always someone watching. They didn't shoot unless they had a guaranteed kill. They were patient, and slowly, carefully, they were mapping Lyudmila's territory. Every shot she took gave away a position. Every kill left a pattern, no matter how small. Becker marked each of her kills on his map with a red X after a week. He had 17 X's. He drew lines between them, calculated angles, estimated her preferred ranges. She likes 400 to 600 meters, he told his men. She avoids extreme long range. That means she prioritizes accuracy over safety. And she shoots from low positions, ground level, basements, never rooftops. Why? Zimmerman answered. Rooftops are traps. One exit, easy to surround. Exactly. Becker circled an area on the map. This sector, she's killed 12 men here in 2 weeks. That means she knows the terrain, feels safe. So we make it unsafe. He looked at Muller. You and Klein. Set up here and here. Don't shoot, just watch. If she takes a shot in this zone, you'll see her muzzle flash, and then we bury her. January 26, 1942, 04:00 hours. Becker didn't sleep. He sat in the darkness of the ruined apartment, Muller's dog tags weighing heavy in his pocket. The young sniper had died instantly, a clean shot through the temple. Professional, efficient, no suffering. That was somehow worse. Becker had trained Muller himself, had watched him graduate from Zetlinsmeister, had shared cigarettes with him in Poland, schnapps in France. Now he was just another body in a city full of bodies. The other men felt it too. Klein had gone quiet. Schmidt kept checking his flanks. Zimmerman jumped at shadows. Hoffman had started smoking more, his hands never quite steady. They'd come to Sevastopol to hunt a legend. Now they were beginning to understand that legends don't die easy. We need to change tactics, Klein said, breaking the silence. He was cleaning his rifle for the 3rd time that night, nervous energy, looking for an outlet. She's reading us. Predicting us. She's had 6 months in this city, Schmidt added. She knows every brick, every shadow. We're fighting on her ground. Becker stared at his map, at the red X's marking Pavlichenko's kills, at the blue circles where his men had set up. He'd been trying to think like a sniper. That was his mistake. He needed to think like her. She's not just defending, he said slowly. She's hunting. Every position we take, she studies. Every pattern we show, she exploits. So we give her what she expects and then we break it. He traced a line on the map. Tomorrow we go loud. Schmidt, Hoffman, Klein, you set up in obvious positions. Make yourselves visible. Draw her attention. You're using us as bait, Klein said flatly. I'm using you as bait, Becker confirmed. Zimmerman and I will be positioned in Overwatch, watching the watchers. When she moves to engage one of you, we'll have her. And if she doesn't take the bait, Becker's smile was cold. Then we've learned something about her. Either way, we win. Lyudmila knew something had changed. She felt it the way animals feel earthquakes before they happen, a wrongness in the air, a shift in the rhythm of the battlefield. The Germans had gone quiet for 24 hours. No patrols, no sniper activity, just silence. Silence was dangerous. Silence meant planning. She was in her primary hide-collapsed basement beneath a bakery that had burned down in November. The basement was perfect. 3 different exits, concealed sight lines, and a ventilation shaft that let her monitor enemy positions without exposing herself. Nina crawled in through the eastern tunnel, covered in frost and mud. Something's happening. Germans are repositioning. 3 new sniper nests went up overnight, all in exposed positions. Exposed how? 2 exposed. Church steeple, factory roof, water tower. Nina shook her head. No experienced sniper would set up there. It's suicide. Lyudmila felt ice crystallize in her stomach. It's bait. For you. For me. She studied the hand-drawn map Nina had sketched. 3 obvious positions, all within her hunting ground. They wanted her to engage, wanted her to reveal herself. They're learning, which means their commander isn't an idiot. So what do we do? Lyudmila was quiet for a long moment. Then, we take the bait, but not the way they expect. 0730 hours. The sun was a pale disk behind thick clouds. Snow had fallen during the night, covering the ruins in fresh white that would make movement visible from kilometers away. Schmidt settled into the church steeple, his breath fogging in the freezing air. He'd wedged himself between 2 support beams, camouflaged with white cloth, rifle trained on the southern approaches. He felt naked up here, exposed. Every instinct screamed at him to find better cover, but Becker's orders were clear. Be visible, be tempting, be bait. So he waited. Hoffman was on the factory roof, 300 meters west. Klein was in the water tower, 400 meters east, and somewhere invisible, hidden, lethal, Becker and Zimmerman were watching all 3 positions, waiting for Lady Death to show herself. The minutes crawled. Schmidt's legs cramped. His fingers grew numb despite his gloves. He scanned the ruins below, searching for any hint of movement, any displacement of snow that might betray a sniper's position. Nothing. An hour passed. 2. Then his radio crackled. Contact Klein's position. Movement. 200 meters south. Schmidt shifted his rifle, scanning. There a flicker of motion near a collapsed wall. Too quick to identify. It could be anything, could be her. Becker's voice, .com and cold. Klein, hold fire. Let her commit. Schmidt, Hoffman, stay sharp. Zimmerman, do you have line of sight? Negative. Too much debris. Schmidt's heart hammered. He kept his scope on the collapsed wall, watching, waiting. Seconds stretched into minutes, then muzzle flash. Klein's radio went dead. Klein. Hoffman's voice cracked across the channel. Klein, respond. Silence. Schmidt felt his breath catch. That made 2. Muller and now Klein, the devil lady, was living up to her name. All units, stay calm, Becker ordered. She's revealed herself. Zimmerman, are you mobile? Moving now. Schmidt, Hoffman, watch your sectors. She'll try to reposition. Don't let her. The bullet hit Schmidt before the sound reached him. He felt the impactor truck slamming into his chest, and then he was falling, tumbling backward through the steeple, the world spinning, his rifle clattering away. He hit the church floor 20 feet below, couldn't breathe, couldn't move. Blood filled his mouth. Through fading vision, he saw a hole in the steeple wall, saw the snow falling through it, peaceful and white, then nothing. Lyudmila cycled the bolt and moved. She'd never been near the collapsed wall. That had been Nina, wearing Lyudmila's spare coat, dragging a weighted sack to simulate crawling movement. The Germans had watched Nina while Lyudmila had circled wide. Approaching the church from the north, the one direction they were uncovering because it required crossing 200 meters of open ground. So she'd crossed it at 0300 in total darkness, inch by inch. 3 hours before dawn, she'd been lying in a snow-covered crater, perfectly still, when the Germans took their positions. They'd been watching for her to arrive. She was already there. The shot on Klein had been from Nina's position 400 meters, through a gap in the walls, hitting him as he scanned south for threats that were actually coming from the west. And Schmidt, confident in his elevated position, had never thought to watch his 6. Now she was moving fast, low, using the rubble for cover. The Germans would be scrambling, trying to reposition, trying to understand how she'd flanked them so completely. Good confusion was her ally. Her radio crackled Nina's voice. You've got movement. Factory roof. Single target. Repositioning West. Hoffman, the Bavarian hunter. He'd be good. Careful. But careful men still make mistakes when they're scared. Lyudmila found a position in the skeleton of a burnt-out truck, 40 meters from the factory's base. From here, she had a sharp upward angle to the roof. Difficult shot, but not impossible. She waited. Patient, still. Minutes passed. Then there, a shadow moving along the roofline. Hoffman was relocating, trying to find a new angle on where he thought she might be. He paused, just for a second, maybe to check his radio, maybe to catch his breath. Lyudmila fired. The shadow jerked and fell backward, disappearing behind the roof's edge. Nina's voice, that's 3. 4, if you count Muller from yesterday. I count them all, Lyudmila said quietly. Becker heard Hoffman's death rattle over the radio, a wet, choking gasp, then silence. He closed his eyes, opened them. 4 men, 4 of Germany's best snipers, gone in 36 hours. Beside him, Zimmerman was breathing hard, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cold. We need to pull back, regroup. This isn't working. No, Becker said. She's killing us. She's killing everyone, Becker snapped. That's what she does. But she's not invincible. She makes mistakes. Everyone does. He keyed his radio, broadcasting on all frequencies Sherman and Russian. Lyudmila Pavlichenko, I know you're listening. In her hide beneath the truck, Lyudmila's blood went cold. She glanced at her radio, hanging from her belt. Becker's voice continued, speaking Russian with a thick German accent. You're very good. Better than I expected. You've killed 4 of my men. Congratulations. A pause. But you and I both know this ends one way. Eventually you'll make a mistake. A small one, and I'll be there. Or someone like me will be there. Your kill count impresses me, but numbers don't make you immortal. Sooner or later, Lady Death, you die too. Lyudmila's jaw tightened. Nina whispered, don't respond. It's psychological warfare. I know what it is. But Becker wasn't done. I've studied you, analyzed every kill. I know you favor 400 to 600 meters. I know you avoid rooftops. I know you're patient, more patient than any sniper I've ever tracked. But I also know you have a tell. Lyudmila's hand moved to the radio. Nina grabbed her wrist. Don't you shoot officers first, Becker continued. Always officers. You're not just fighting a war, you're making a statement. Pride, that's your weakness. Pride makes you predictable. Lyudmila yanked her wrist free from Nina's grip and keyed the radio. When she spoke, her voice was ice and steel. Hauptmann Becker. Yes, I know your name too. You're right, I do shoot officers first. Because officers like you send boys to die while you hide behind them. For men dead. And where were you? Watching safe, she paused. You want to know my tell? Here it is. I don't miss. Come find me. Or send another batch of students. I'll kill them too. She released the radio key. Nina stared at her. You just told him exactly where you are. No, Lyudmila said, already packing her rifle. I told him where I was. Becker smiled. He'd gotten what he wanted, her voice. And more importantly, the transmission direction. His radio operator would triangulate the source within minutes. Not precise enough for a shot, but enough to narrow the search area. She's north-northwest of our position, he told Zimmerman, within 500 meters. Probably ground level or below. Start searching. They moved like ghosts through the ruins, weapons ready, every sense screaming. The snow had stopped. The city was silent except for a distant artillery, a low rumble that never quite stopped. The background noise of Sevastopol's slow death. Becker checked every shadow, every hole, every pile of rubble that could conceal a sniper. He was methodical, patient. He'd tracked partisans through Polish forests, resistance fighters through French villages. This was no different, except it was because Pavlichenko wasn't running, she was hunting him back. He found the burnt truck 10 minutes later. Found the brass casing from her shot, still warm. Found the small depression in the snow where she'd lain. She'd been here minutes ago, maybe seconds, which meant she was close. Zimmerman swept the area with his rifle, breathing hard. Where is she? Near, Becker whispered. Very near. And then, from somewhere behind them, a woman's voice, soft, almost conversational. You're looking the wrong direction. They spun. The shot caught Zimmerman in the throat. He dropped, gurgling, clutching at the wound as blood sprayed across the white snow, impossibly red. Becker fired blindly. 3 quick shots toward the voice's origin. Hit nothing. He dove behind a concrete slab, dragging Zimmerman with him. The young sniper's eyes were wide, terrified, fading. He tried to speak, couldn't. Blood bubbled from his lips. Stay with me, Becker hissed. But Zimmerman was already gone. Becker was alone now, the last one left. Him and Lady Death, somewhere in the ruins, playing the final round of a game that had killed everyone else. He steadied his breathing, controlled his fear, became still. This was what he'd trained for. This moment, hunter versus hunter, no backup, no second chances. He keyed his radio one last time. Pavlichenko, just you and me now. Her voice came back, calm and cold. It was always just you and me. January 27th, 1942, 16:20 hours. The sun was already dying, bleeding orange across the horizon. In Sevastopol's winter, darkness came early and fast, like a curtain dropping on a stage. Becker had maybe 90 minutes of usable light left. He crouched behind the concrete slab, Zimmerman's body cooling beside him, and forced himself to think, to analyze, to become the machine he'd trained himself to be. She'd fired from his rear, which meant she'd circled behind while he was tracking her original position, which meant she'd anticipated his movements, which meant she was thinking 3 steps ahead. He pulled out his map and marked his current position with a shaking hand, then marked where each of his men had died. Kleinwater Tower, killed from the west. Schmidtchurch Steeple, killed from the north. Hoffman Factory Roof, killed from the east. Zimmerman here, killed from the south. She was rotating, striking from different angles, never the same approach twice, which meant if he stayed here, she'd come from ... where, above below he looked up, looked down. The concrete slab was part of a collapsed building. Beneath it, gaps led into darkness, basement spaces, sewers, the city's buried infrastructure. She could be anywhere. He felt it then, the thing every hunted animal feels, the weight of eyes on your back, the certainty that you're being watched, that somewhere, in some shadow, behind some pile of rubble, through some crack in the ruins, death is studying you. His radio crackled. Her voice, "You're breathing too hard, Hauptmann. I can hear it from here." He didn't respond, didn't move. It was a trick. She was trying to provoke him into giving away his position. "I've been watching you for 11 minutes, she continued. Conversational, almost friendly. "You've checked the same sightline 4 times. That's a tell. You're nervous." His finger tightened on the trigger. Where was she? The voice was coming from the radio, not from any specific direction. She could be 300 meters away. Could be 30. "Your men were brave," she said. "Zimmerman especially. He almost saw me, almost. But almost isn't enough in this work, you know that." Becca's jaw clenched. "Don't engage, don't respond. She's trying to get inside your head.